Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy RJ Game News USA here, back today with another video. And I know I'm sitting in the dark in a car. It seems ominous. However, I'm actually here today to talk about King of the Hill Season 15 review. So first, while you're here, hit the subscribe button. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the lead up to this season. So as we know, King of the Hill ran 13 seasons, in the past. And the first season of the new series, not really a new series, but the continuation, was really good. I was really impressed. It was genuinely very, very funny. I do think it's funnier than this current season, season 15. But I think season 15 really did a good job at expanding the story, having an even better through line through things and through the original series. And I'm going to explain what I mean. Overall, this gets a 9 out of 10, and I highly recommend it. But we're going to jump right into this review, right into the spoilers very shortly. So if you haven't watched it already, please go watch it and then come back to this review. But if not, we're going to go ahead and spoil it and talk about it. We're not going to talk about every single episode, but we are going to talk about what happens in some episodes. So, right off the bat, the feel-good story is Connie and Bobby are together, and they're dealing with the fallout of what Shane Wasana-san is going to think about it. And obviously, the big theme of season 1 was, could Bobby get the girl? And he did. So now, going into season 2, we're seeing their relationship grow between Connie and Bobby. And we're also seeing Bobby just doing more adult things. We had a storyline where Emilio was fired, and Bobby fought to get him back on the crew. He also reconciled things with Shane Wasana-san, and they had an understanding. So it was a good conflict, and it was resolved in a believable fashion. I think King of the Hill can be very feel-good sometimes. Sometimes it's too feel-good for people's taste, but I think Mike Judge, he already treats Beavis and Butthead like, hey, you get shit on a lot. So I think King of the Hill is more of his feel-good story. That's not to say it can't be funny, because trust me, there's some very hilarious situations that happen. Also, speaking of Bobby and Connie, Bobby ended up going on to a cooking show contest, and another chick kissed him and was flirting with him to promote the show. Bobby did the right thing, and he basically professed his love to Connie, and they ended up deciding towards the end of the season that they're going to move in together. And that should make for an interesting reaction to what goes on in season 16. Which, by the way, season 16 is already wrote, and we have a greenlit all the way through season 17. So be expecting this continuation of King of the Hill to last for a while. One thing that I like about this continuation more than the original series even is the fact that it doesn't feel like it's a traditional sitcom in the sense that, oh man, every episode something different happens. It really feels like we're progressing a storyline. We're getting to a point on things. And one of the biggest storylines is, why did Hank ever go to Saudi Arabia in the gap years to begin with? And they explain that in the season finale, which is a really good episode that you should watch. And Hank Hill ended up becoming the manager of Strickland Propane. Buck chose his son to lead the company, and that was obviously a mistake. That's why Hank quit in the first place, and he took the job in Saudi. Bobby stayed behind, and we figured out why Bobby liked to cook. When he was working at the Whataburger, he ended up having a passion for it. Now, we always heard those rumors that Bobby was going to be some kind of like blue-haired liberal or something like that, and that was always in the reboot plans from years ago. That's not what happened. But they did tease the blue hair here when Bobby did have blue hair. They never teased him being like super woke or liberal or anything like that. the shows mostly stayed away from politics. However, it did have a social commentary on something. Like, for example, there was an episode where a chicken basically turned into a rooster. It's a rare condition that happens once in every 10,000 chickens when they're surrounded by other chickens. And it sort of was a pseudo substitute for the whole child trans debate thing, but without actually commenting on the issue, more dancing around the issue. It was more the ridiculousness of the conflicts between both sides, right? So I think King of the Hill did a really good job of doing that. Make no mistake about it, they definitely always portray Hank as a conservative. However, they always portray Hank as the conservative that's willing to listen to a liberal message here and there, and which sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. But they've definitely gotten less political in the continuation of King of the Hill than what they used to in the past. King of the Hill in the past, they all had the George Bush episode. They had plenty of political episodes. We also saw funny episodes like the marriage retreat episode in this season. We also saw an episode where Bobby and Joseph went to Mexico, and it was a disaster because Joseph didn't pay for his stuff. He didn't have everything together, and it taught a lesson to Bobby about how he was being towards his dad. Now, personally, I think one of the areas they did drop the ball in this season was they have not developed Joseph's character at all. Joseph is still acting like some horned up frat dude that can't get laid. That's his character. And it's really a shame that they've really boxed Joseph in to this dumb, jockish sort of character, except he's not even really a jock. He's just dumb and horny all the time, and that's all his character is. And it's really annoying because Bobby seems like he's moved so far beyond that mindset. He's matured. Connie's matured. Joseph's the third wheel. And it's really a shame they couldn't get him into some sort of relationship or give him some sort of area of maturity and growth. Hopefully we'll see that in the next season. So speaking of where characters are left off, other than Joseph, I think almost every other character has been left off in a good way. There's still some missing pieces, though. Where's Luann? Right? Where is that going? Because she was mentioned in the final episode of the season that Bobby stayed with her, and that's why Bobby was able to stay. So we got a lot of questions answered in the final episode of the season. And we're set up really good for next season with Hank being the owner of Strickland Propane. So I think the show will be better that way. Hank not being just retired, bored, not knowing what to do, but now he actually has a purpose and a drive of what he wants to do in life. Not to say that a lot of the stuff he ended up doing during his retirement wasn't funny, because it was, but I think Hank's back in his proper place at Strickland Propane. So overall, like I said, really good show. I highly recommend it. 9 out of 10. Anyway, what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Did you watch the new King of the Hill? Let me know. But until next time, this is RJ signing out. Have a good one.